Bring in the accused. Formosus, you stand accused of becoming Pope illegally. How do you plead?
He says, not guilty. He didn't say anything.
Your Holiness, he's been dead for 9 months.
So now he's in contempt of court.
This actually happened. In 897, Pope Stephen VI had the body of an earlier pope, Formosus, dug up, dressed in papal robes, and placed on trial with a deacon appointed to answer for the dead man. The corpse was found guilty. 3 fingers used for blessing were cut off, and the body was eventually thrown into the Tiber.
Next case.
Oink! Ow!
My client has been advised not to oink.
And over the centuries, animals really did face formal trials in parts of Europe. But the Middle Ages were not 1,000 years of random insanity. They were a 1,000-year attempt to rebuild law, order, and power after Rome. Once Rome was gone, who was actually in charge? At its height, Rome united law, money, taxes, roads, and a professional army. If something went wrong, at least you knew where to complain.
People are crossing the frontier again! Fill out these 8 forms. A legion should respond within 6 to 8 weeks. Please direct all future complaints to the invaders.
Western Rome did not collapse in a day. Civil war, financial strain, disease, migration, and military pressure weakened it for generations. In 476, the Germanic commander Odoacer removed the last Western emperor, a boy with almost no real power. The Eastern Empire survived for almost another 1,000 years. Its people still called themselves Romans. Historians usually call their empire Byzantine. Europe took many paths. Eastern Rome endured. Islamic states reshaped the southern Mediterranean and much of Iberia. Norse, Slavic, and Eastern European realms emerged as well. What emerged in the West was a hybrid world. Roman institutions, Christian organization and belief, and warrior kingdoms held together by land, force, and personal loyalty.
I conquered it. I can tell everyone God approved.
Can either of you keep accounts? You still need me.
Rome had concentrated law, taxation, armies, and legitimacy inside one empire. Medieval Europe divided them among kings, popes, lords, and towns. Peasants usually got to pay all of them.
I cannot read. Ugh, oh dear.
Western Europe filled with new kingdoms. They had warriors, but few educated officials. They had land, but unreliable taxes. They had kings, but no guarantee that anyone considered those kings legitimate. The church had literate clergy, Latin records, administrative experience, and, most importantly, legitimacy. Kings could protect the church. The church could tell everyone that God approved of the king.
I need someone with an army.
I need someone who can tell everyone God likes me.
It is God's will.
Deus vult! Deus vult!
This partnership reached its peak under Charlemagne. After decades of conquest, he controlled much of Western Europe. On Christmas Day in the year 800, the Pope crowned him Emperor of the Romans. For the first time since antiquity, an imperial crown had returned to the Latin West.
Excellent. Western Europe is united.
Your Majesty, there is a rebellion in the south.
Send orders immediately.
You're late. That rebellion ended. The second one has started.
Charlemagne could conquer a huge territory. Governing it was harder. Cities were small. Tax revenue was limited. Old roads were deteriorating. And the speed of imperial communication depended heavily on how a horse felt that morning.
I'll take the west. I'll take the east. Then I'll take the middle.
And while Charlemagne's descendants fought over the old empire, new visitors were already approaching its coasts and borders. The Carolingian world had barely divided before attacks came from every direction. Vikings were especially good at exploiting coasts and rivers. Monasteries were often near the water, full of valuables, and defended mainly by prayer.
Lord, send us a sign. Does wealth corrupt the soul?
We're here to help with the experiment!
But Vikings were not only raiders. They were merchants, explorers, and settlers. From Ireland and England to the river routes of the east, they built trading networks and new states.
Stop attacking my kingdom, and I'll give you land in the north.
Then what?
Convert. Defend the coast. Stop other Vikings from attacking.
You want Vikings to protect you from Vikings? Exactly. That is impressively stupid. I accept.
That land became Normandy, the land of the Northmen. These attacks exposed Western Europe's basic problem. Kings were far away. They lacked the money and permanent armies to protect every village, so protection became a local business.
Your Majesty, Vikings took our cows.
The royal army will protect you. We don't have a royal army. Then send the local lord. What do we pay him with? How much land do we still own?
Kings granted land or rights to lords in exchange for loyalty and military support. Lords supported mounted warriors in return for service. Peasants worked the land, paid rents and labor dues, and received a home and, in theory, protection.
You work for me. I protect you. From whom? Mostly them. And if they don't come, then I come to collect the rent.
Historians often group these changing relationships under the label feudalism, but there was no single, tidy feudal pyramid used everywhere in Europe. There were overlapping rights, private loyalties, local customs, and a heroic amount of paperwork. One of the most successful groups to emerge from this world was the Normans. Soon they wanted a larger prize, England. The opportunity came in 1066. Edward the Confessor, King of England, died without a clear heir.
The king is dead. He left no son. Then it should be me.
I have a very complicated Scandinavian agreement.
Do we have a formal succession process? We do now.
We do now.
This was not a normal succession. It was musical chairs, except the chair was England. Harold. Now King Harold II defeated the Norwegian invasion at Stamford Bridge. Almost at the same moment, William crossed the English Channel and landed in the south.
Your Majesty, another invasion, south coast. Can England be any shorter? No, but your army can march the full length of it immediately. When you say your army, you mean us.
On October 14, Harold's tired army formed a shield wall along a ridge. William had archers, infantry and cavalry, but for hours, the English position held.
That shield wall isn't moving. What if we retreat? Are you running away? I'm pretending to run away, tactically.
Some Norman troops did retreat. English fighters pursued them and were hit by counterattacks. Whether every withdrawal was planned or partly battlefield chaos, repeated advances and retreats gradually weakened the shield wall. Harold was killed, possibly struck by an arrow, possibly cut down by Norman knights, and the English shield wall finally collapsed. William won and became William the Conqueror. The Normans redistributed land, built castles, replaced much of the English elite, and brought French into the royal court. The conquest was recorded in nearly 70 meters of embroidery, a medieval graphic novel with a very strong Norman editorial policy. The conquest transformed the England's ruling class, but for most medieval people, the important question was not who wore the crown. It was whether the harvest would last until spring. After about the year 1000, outside attacks declined. Farming techniques improved. More land was cultivated. In some regions, favorable climate conditions also helped. Populations rose, villages expanded, and towns and long-distance trade revived. For most peasants, medieval life was not one continuous battle. Their world was family, fields, harvests, the village, the church, and fees.
Bridge toll. Very well. Here you are. Entry toll. Very well. Stall fee. Breathing fee. I'll charge for that next year.
As trade grew, merchants and craftspeople gathered in towns. Some communities bought charters, formed guilds, or fought their lords for greater self-government.
We will pay you one large sum in exchange for governing ourselves. Very generous. I accept. Then who collects your taxes? We do.
Hooray! Hooray!
They grow up so fast.
Towns wanted freedom from lords. The church wanted freedom from kings. A stronger, more centralized papacy was emerging, and kings were not eager to surrender control over powerful church offices. The church was becoming richer and more organized. Bishops and monasteries controlled enormous estates. Kings wanted to appoint bishops because bishops managed more than souls. They also managed land, money, and political influence.
I appoint this man. You cannot appoint bishops. Why not? Because I have just appointed a rule saying you cannot appoint bishops.
This conflict became known as the Investiture controversy. Henry IV, King of the Romans, and future emperor, challenged Pope Gregory VII. Gregory excommunicated him, which was a religious punishment, and a very convenient invitation for Henry's enemies to rebel.
Is the Pope available now? Do you have an appointment?
I am King of the Romans.
So that's a no. Now? His Holiness is still deciding whether you exist politically. Hey! Now? Your sincerity has reached the minimum acceptable level. But it's freezing out here.
Have you learned your lesson completely?
He had not. Canossa proved that a pope could keep a king outside in the snow. It did not settle who outranked whom. Popes, emperors, kings, and nobles would fight over that question for centuries. And an increasingly confident papacy did not only want to discipline Europe's rulers, it also wanted to direct Europe's warriors.
God hazul it! God wills it!
The Byzantine Empire was losing territory in Anatolia to the Seljuk Turks, and the emperor asked the West for military help. At Clermont in 1095, Urban II urged the warriors of Western Christendom to aid Christians in the East, with Jerusalem as the ultimate destination.
Defend the Christians of the East! Journey to the Holy City, to Jerusalem! Those who take the cross will receive remission of sins!
Feudalism!
Who pays for the journey? You may sell your property. Is there a return journey? Next question. Will there be land? I promised forgiveness, not real estate. He didn't say no. God wills it!
God wills it! God wills it!
Motives varied. Faith, honor, adventure, and opportunity mixed together. And crusading was often ruinously expensive. Before the organized noble armies departed, preachers, including Peter the Hermit, led poorly supplied, mixed crowds eastward. Along the way, crusaders massacred Jewish communities in the Rhineland. The force known as the People's Crusade was then largely destroyed by Seljuk troops in Anatolia. The noble armies that followed were better organized. After brutal sieges, they captured Jerusalem in 1099 and massacred Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. They established states in the eastern Mediterranean that remained dependent on support from Europe. More crusades followed. Their targets included Muslim states, pagans in Europe, Christians labeled heretics, and eventually other Christian cities.
Wait, aren't they Christians? Yes. Aren't we going to Jerusalem? Originally, finance has revised the itinerary.
Driven by debt, Venetian interests, and Byzantine political struggles, the Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople, badly weakening the empire. The crusading movement had originally claimed to assist. Owe the Venetians enough money, and the complications begin planning their own route. The Crusades failed to unite Christendom, but they intensified violence, migration, and Mediterranean contact, while cities and knowledge networks grew. The High Middle Ages were also an era of trade, urban growth, and learning. Italian maritime cities, northern merchant networks, and overland routes connected Europe to the Mediterranean and far beyond. Paper, mathematical techniques, medical works, and Greek and Arabic scholarship entered Western Europe through translation, trade, and cultural contact. Universities emerged in places such as Bologna, Paris, and Oxford. Gothic cathedrals turned wealth, faith, and engineering into mountains of stone.
When will it be finished? If all goes well, your great-grandson can attend the opening. And if it doesn't? His great-grandson.
But more learning did not mean that every profession had become specialized.
Just a haircut, please. Hair, tooth, or blood? I suddenly like it as it is!
In late medieval and later European towns, some barber surgeons also performed bloodletting, pulled teeth, and carried out certain surgical procedures. Education was returning. Professional boundaries needed more time. Europe was connected again. Goods, technologies, and ideas traveled quickly along roads and through ports. Unfortunately, merchants were not the only ones using the network. In the middle of the 14th century, the Black Death caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis reached Europe and swept across the continent. Estimates vary by region, but Europe may have lost between 1/3 and 1/2 of its population. Families vanished. Settlements were abandoned. City graveyards could not contain the dead. With no understanding of the true cause, fear produced religious panic, flight, and persecution, including attacks on Jewish communities. But the catastrophe produced a consequence the ruling class had not expected. The land remained. The harvest still had to be gathered. The workers did not.
You will work for the same wage as last year. No. You cannot refuse. Why? Because no one has before. The lord next door offered twice as much. I forbid you to leave. My lord, the lord next door also offered the guards twice as much. When did everyone learn economics? Times are changing, my lord. This is outrageous!
In England, the Ordinance of Labourers in 1349 and the Statute of Labourers in 1351 tried to freeze wages at pre-plague levels and restrict workers' movement. Similar struggles appeared elsewhere. Elites resisted. Most uprisings were crushed. But labour scarcity gradually weakened serfdom in many parts of Western Europe.
Finally!
Slightly. Labour relations were changing. Next, the aristocracy's hold over warfare would change as well. England and France were already trapped in the generations-long 100 Years' War. In 1415, Henry V led a tired, outnumbered English army into battle against a larger French force at Agincourt.
A man in the tavern said that if you fall in plate armor, you can never get up. Incredible! How?
The same man said, "Your bow can shoot through anything."
The tavern may not be peer-reviewed.
I am experiencing a mobility issue now.
Properly fitted plate armor did not turn a warrior into an overturned turtle, and a high-quality breastplate was not cardboard. Massed longbow fire could still kill horses, strike weaker areas, and disrupt formations. But Agincourt's deadly combination was narrow terrain, deep mud, crowding, exhaustion, command problems, and brutal close combat. Longbows were not the only weapons changing war. Gunpowder weapons became more reliable, and heavy cannon began to threaten traditional walls.
This wall has protected my family for 300 years. That's beautiful. Make that 300 years and one morning.
Cannon did not erase castles overnight, and armor continued to develop. But artillery, infantry, and longer-lasting armies were expensive. Kings who could tax, borrow, and build administrations gained an advantage over individual lords.
I used to lead cavalry charges. Now you collect taxes. Do the records fight back? Constantly. Worse than the French.
By the 15th century, some kingdoms had built stronger taxes and armies. In 1453, the Ottomans captured Constantinople. At roughly the same time, printing began spreading ideas faster than ever. By around 1500, European powers were turning outward. The empires, conquests, and catastrophes that followed are another story. So who ruled medieval Europe? No one. Not completely, and not for long. Kings held crowns, popes claimed legitimacy, lords controlled castles, towns accumulated money, peasants supplied the labor none of them could live without. No single successor recovered all the powers Rome had once combined. Medieval Europe did not rebuild one Rome. It built an overlapping web of powers constantly negotiating and frequently fighting. That overlap was not a temporary failure of the system. To a large extent, it was the system. The Middle Ages were not a 1,000-year pause between Rome and the Renaissance. They were the 1,000 years in which Europe put itself back together. The road was not straight, the process was not clean, and somebody had clearly lost the instructions.
Has the jury reached a verdict? No. My client is appealing. Oink! Oink!
Some institutions took longer to rebuild than others.